Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show, our very first episode of the Big Break Show podcast series here with my boy, Jesse Vasquez. We're super excited
What
to
up?
be
What
here
up?
today. We're super excited to do this. We hope you guys enjoy the show. Today's going to be a little bit different. We're talking about our stories, who we are, why we decided to do the show, and go from there. Jesse, you want to start off and introduce yourself to the listeners here, please?
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining our show. We appreciate it. We're super excited. We have a pretty decent following on Clubhouse and Instagram and all those other things, and Rafa down south in Los Angeles. And my name is Jesse Vasquez in Northern California, and I'm here to talk about. We're actually going to talk about what the big break is. I think that's something that Rafa and I have talked about on Clubhouse for quite some time, and people are actually always asking, like, what the hell is the big break? Well, we're here. We'll tell you guys that right now.
Well, Jesse, I
So.
think I think before we go into what the Big Break Show is, I think we should tell people a little bit of our background, how we met, who we are, and then go into the show itself. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. Yeah, so Rafa and I actually met through Clubhouse during quarantine. This is literally when nobody was able to get out and do anything. We were all stuck in our homes, confined in our little prisons of our homes. Some of us enjoyed it, and some of us adapted wearing sweats, which if I stood up right now, I'm still wearing the same sweats I wore during COVID. Thank you,
Fun fact:
Target.
Jesse wears
Anyway,
sweatpants every single day from the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to bed.
sweats forever, my friends. I sleep in sweats too, the same ones that I'm wearing now, 7 days in a row. I haven't washed them. But anyway, Uh, yeah, so Ruff and I met through Clubhouse, which we've connected with a ton of other people. During that time, there was so much disturbance and with the world and how everything was changing and shifting, and we really connected through, through voice, just like old school. You guys remember like Love Line back in the day? Remember that app, Rafa?
I
Like
have
people
no
would
idea
call in
what
and
that is,
listen.
bro. You're too old for me, man. I
You're
don't
not
know
old
what
enough.
that
I know,
is. You mean like the party
dude. Come
line?
on, it's Adam Carolla.
I know
Yeah, it was
what it
like a
is.
party line. It was basically like
Wasn't that on Kiss
people would
FM?
call each other. Yeah, it was that too. So basically, we reverted back to 1997 all over again because of COVID, and we were able to jump on a platform. For those of you who aren't familiar, Clubhouse is where everybody can get together through voice. There's moderators, and there's like a listening lounge. So we were able to meet on there, connect on there, and here we are. What is it? 10 months, 11 months later, after we met. We met in person a couple times already, and yeah, I'm glad I met you, man, because here we are, 11 months later, putting together a podcast.
Hey man, I appreciate that. It
Pretty
means a lot
badass.
because I think you've become one of my really good friends since we talk almost every single day, right? And we can relate on a lot of different topics, a lot of different subjects, and specifically the reason why we started this show because of short-term rentals, right? So, everybody listening to this, my name is Rafa Loza. I am a short-term rental operator. I have technically a hospitality business here in Southern California. I run all of my rentals out of Southern California. And yeah, me and Jesse also, like he was saying, we met a Clubhouse and we kind of hit it off. We host a room together on Clubhouse, and we decided, hey, since we're pretty much doing this on Clubhouse every week, why don't we just record it so that the rest of the world outside of Clubhouse can listen to our shenanigans while we're out here messing around? Because that's what we do. We mess around, but we also like to give knowledge and share our experiences so that maybe one of you guys out there can take it, apply it, and do something with it. Ooh, Jesse, actually, that's one of our segments. Take and apply, right? We're going to implement that to
Yep,
every single
yeah.
one of our units. So, Jesse, let me ask you a question here. Let's get started.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for everybody listening, Jesse actually came up with the name The Big Break, and I loved it. So now it's kind of stuck to everything, right? It started with Airbnb The Big Break, which is what our Facebook group is called, which is what our Clubhouse room is called. But this one we decided to call The Big Break Show because we're not talking strictly about Airbnb, and Airbnbs for everybody listening is a short-term rental. But why'd you choose that name, Jesse? Why The Big Break, my friend?
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you asked that, dude. And that's what everybody usually asks. What the hell is the big break? So for me, the big break was when I realized I didn't realize I was necessarily an entrepreneur. I started short-term rentals in 2015. I worked in the healthcare world for 17 years. I just left in July. But I always thought of myself as an employee. I wanted to always level up in a company and be better at that. When I started as a short-term rental operator back in 2015, it really opened my eyes to entrepreneurship. And the great thing about short-term rentals is, you don't necessarily have to own a property to do that. You can arbitrage, right? And it's a little side hustle and all these things. But all it took was that little side hustle for me to start having a grander vision of what I'm doing, and it's actually really is a business. I never thought about short-term rentals as an actual business. So that's what the big break was for me, man. Is it really like flipped my eyes where I realized like, holy shit, I actually have the potential to create a business, an easy barrier to entry. We know that we can get into these things super easy, right? And that's what it was, man. So, and I think everybody has those big breaks in their life at these moments where something changes, whether it's something that happens personally, through business, financially, where it's almost that awakening where like, holy shit, this has been in front of me the entire time. And now I see it and I see the potential and I see the upsides. So that's what the big break came from because we all have that. Rafa, you probably have that, in your own specific reasons. So, talking about that now, we're talking about the show, the big break. So, one of the things that I think that we should always talk about is like, what is your why? How did you run into that? And how does short-term rentals correlate with that?
My biggest thing my entire life was to have control of my time. And ultimately, I don't have children and stuff like that. A lot of people, their why is their family and their kids. My family, of course, is number one before anything else. But my why, for the reason as to why I do this and to why I wake up every morning, is because I want to have full 100% control of my time, right? I want to be able to do what I want with who I want, where I want, when I want, right? At the flip of a dime, I want to say, hey, let's go live in London for a month. I want to be able to do that and have the freedom to do so, right? And so it's the reason why, get it? See what I did there? It's the reason why I do this. It's why I wake up every single morning. And yeah, man, I mean, that's really my why. I just want to be able to share my story with people, wake up and control how I really want to control my life. I mean, why don't you tell us what's yours, man? Why? What's your why?
There's something freaking fantastic about not having somebody to tell you to do something. You know what I mean? Like when you have that ability and that freedom, where you don't have somebody calling you and being like, "Hey, what'd you do today?" Have you ever seen the movie Office Space?
No, I don't think I have.
Have you seen that movie?
No.
Oh, there's this dude Lumberg. He's the manager, and he's always like, "Hey, Lumberg, when's you got your TSA reports in? We need to get those in ASAP." And everybody that's watched that will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's almost like you hate to do that regular, having somebody tell you what to do. So entrepreneurship really kind of opens you to that. Like I could do what I want. I could slept in today till 9.
Oh, easy.
I woke up at like 4. But yeah, man. So that's cool. I'm glad you brought that up. We'll dive into that in some future episodes about all that stuff. But for me, my wife, I have kids. I mean, I want to be able to build something for them, pick them up from school, drop them off from school, or drop them off to school. And I'm able to do that, have that type of flexibility. Like me growing up as a kid, like I didn't see my dad, dude. He worked so much. Like my mom, like literally did everything. So my dad was always gone. And I think for me, early on in my life, when I had kids, I was like, I want to be able to make sure that I'm there for them in a way that my dad wasn't. So, and not that he couldn't be, because he had to fucking provide for the family. You know what I mean? Are we allowed to cuss on this show? Because I just did like 3 times. But
I think we'll be safe. I think
yeah,
it's going to be adults, older people listening to us.
kids, cover your ears, earmuffs, earmuffs. That's what I used to tell my kids when I was a kid, when they were kids. But yeah, man. So that was what got me into my why. I want to be able to build something sustainable and, you know, give them something later in life that they're able to, you know, earn, not necessarily just give. I feel like that's something that they need to learn how to handle in a business, and they're able to sing this too. They're seeing these things happen in real life. Like I just left my W-2 job not that long ago, so that's pretty badass to watch your dad do something like that. You know what I mean? So that's my why, man. I want to be able to pass something down to my children and to be able to have time. Time is the most important thing that we can't buy that. You know what I mean? We can't buy that at all. So for me, that goes back to my why. Is
Love
kind
it,
of what
man.
you have is freedom.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, listen, I want to shift a little bit on the conversation. Everybody knows what our why is, the reason why we started the podcast, and why we named it the Big Break, right? And so the Big Break show here, for the purposes of the podcast, is about short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, mindset, life, and everything in between, right? So, what got you onto the first part of this podcast? What got you into short-term rentals?
I watched. I don't even know if you know this story, man. I'll make it quick because we only have our segment's going to be short today.
Yeah.
Um, my parents had rentals as a kid, and I grew up in a very Catholic household, so my parents were very forgiving of people that were renting their properties for them. So as a child, I remember literally being in the back of a 1985 freaking minivan driving to the courthouse to go. My parents had meetings because they literally were getting evicted they were trying to evict somebody that they didn't pay their rent. And my parents were ended up losing several houses because they were way too forgiving. It didn't happen once, man. It happened multiple times. So for me, getting into short-term rentals, I was like, this was back in 2015 too. I wanted to get into something where I know I was going to get paid first. And that's exactly what short-term rentals are. You don't have, I mean, there's squatters that eventually happen here and there, but you don't have that. That typically doesn't happen, by the way. I get paid. If somebody's staying for the night, I get paid for that night. I'm not having to chase anybody down, no rent checks, none of that stuff. So for me, that only made sense. You know what I mean? That's what got me into that whole idea of short-term rentals is because of the learned behavior from my parents having to go through court, literally those car rides to the courthouse still ingrained in my brain. Being in the back seat, like literally that's when my parents, argue about going to the courthouse, man. So that's what it was for me.
It's awesome, dude.
Definitely. What about you, man?
Well, I mean, so my thing, right? My entire life, I've pretty much been an entrepreneur. And so ever since the age of 12, when I think probably before that, when I started my first entrepreneurial journey with my brother, we were washing catering trucks as children, right? And so my entire life, I've always kind of been trying to figure out a way to make money on the side, right? From the time I got my first job, I was like, okay, I got to do something on the side anyway, because I spend a lot, so I got to cover expenses. And so, well, I did. And so, when I got to the point in my life where I wanted to invest in real estate, I started doing the research and finding out about Airbnb and what Airbnb was and coming together that, oh, it was short-term rentals. So, right. And to clear that up, right, because there's a lot of people going to be listening to this that think Airbnb is a short-term rental. And here's the deal. Airbnb and short-term rentals are not the same thing. They're two very differentiating things, right? Okay. Short-term rentals is the strategy. Airbnb is one of the platforms for marketing your short-term rental. Let's clear that up really fast. Your short-term rental is your asset, the house, the apartment, the tiny house, whatever it is that you have, the boat that you're short-term renting, whatever it is. Airbnb is the platform you're using to put it on. And I wanted to clear that up, Jesse, because, talking about short-term rentals, people are going to be like, what is a short-term rental? Well, that's what it is. And so I got into short-term rentals around around the point in my life where I was working a W-2. And again, my entire life being an entrepreneur, I've never really wanted to have a W-2. I've wanted to always do my own thing. I've had several businesses. I've done a lot of different things to make money. And so when I learned about what Airbnb and short-term rentals were, I was like, okay, I can give this a shot. And so I did. And long story short, right, I guess we should do a different segment about our actual lives, but or the actual part of it. But long story short, I was working graveyard. I ended up opening my first apartment. It did awesome. It did killer. And so it was all, long story short from there, I mean, I just started doing it nonstop. And it showed me now, and that's kind of my big break in my adult life, right, was short-term rentals. Because in my adult life, it's what got me into getting the freedom of my time. It got me into investing, like real true investing, because the cash flow you generate from these things are amazing, right? And at first, it was just because I wanted to make extra cash. And short-term rentals was that. It was the way for me to make money. It was a way for me to survive. It was a way for me not have to have a W-2, right? My first part of short-term rentals was I can do this to make extra cash on the side of my W-2. Then I realized how good it was. I said, wait, I can do this to actually quit my job and do this full-time as my job. And then I did that. And now I'm using it for my investments, for my investing journey. So short-term rentals have done 3 different things in my life. They helped me quit my job, right? They help me make side money, and now they're helping me make more money by investing in different asset classes. And so that's why I got into short-term rentals, man. You know what? Speaking of entrepreneurship, I guess I'll ask you the next question, right? I keep asking questions. You should ask me one, man. But the next question is, when did you become an entrepreneur? When did you realize, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, or I want to be an entrepreneur?
Well, the one thing that I realized a long time ago, working for a corporate sector, is that everything that I was doing in my job at that time, I was making somebody else rich. And I realized really early on that if I ever wanted to make a lot of money, I had to create my own business. And I was also selling pogs as a child. Like, I don't even know if you know what pogs are, dude.
So you were a baby
Pogs.
entrepreneur.
You know what pogs are?
Of course, dude. I used to collect the bullfrog pogs from Anaheim back when I was a child too.
Dude, I had an OJ Simpson pog. Like it was a glove.
You're lying. That's
And
funny.
I'm not kidding you, dude. I swear to God.
You should have held on to it, bro. Probably somebody has it framed on their wall right now.
I know. It'd probably be worth like 30 cents now. But yeah, man. So I think when I was a kid, I really had that entrepreneurial mindset, but it didn't click for me until later on in life when, again, with short-term rentals, like I didn't realize, I knew it was always there. I was doing things as a kid, washing cars, just like you and your brother did. I was knocking on neighbors' doors like, hey, do you guys mind if I mow your lawn? Like I was that kid, raking leaves and crap. So I think that, and I also had a strong work ethic. And, we're Hispanic, so like our parents were like just straight up workers. That's what I was taught as a kid. Like you work hard, you get things. That's just the way it is. And so I had that work ethic, and I just didn't know where to put all that. And eventually I got into sales very early in my life. And without sales, man, like that's the key fundamental basis for everything. We'll have to have a podcast just on how important sales is. But I'm so glad that I learned that very early on in my life, the sales portion of things, because that was able to propel me to kind of move forward with connecting with people, talking. So to answer your question, man, I knew I was an entrepreneur at a young age. I had the idea; it was embedded in me, but it didn't actually come out until I started, the short-term rental business. Hence the big break. It was that one aha moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but what about you, man? So you realized you were an entrepreneur early,
Well,
So here's a question that I have for you.
okay.
How has your mind shifted from being a W-2 employee to now an entrepreneur? And what happened? What changed in your mindset from that W-2 to just straight up living and feeding? Everything that you're doing is based off of the actions that you do today.
Yeah. So I guess in order to answer that question, I got to go back a bit, right? Growing up, my dad was an entrepreneur his entire life. I never saw him work a 9 to 5. I don't think he's ever actually worked a 9 to 5. My dad, we came from Mexico, so my dad came. He was working at the age of 7, and so he's always had his own business with his dad, right? To his own thing. From the moment I was born to today, he's never worked a 9 to 5, not once. I honestly can't remember. I mean, maybe he has, but don't quote me on it. But I can't.
Here's a question for you. Because did you work with your dad? Did your dad take you to work with him?
So So here's the thing. So my first entrepreneurial journey was my dad actually he didn't make me, but he had me work with him because he had a catering truck business, right? And so me and my brother would be the kids washing the catering truck at the age of 12, right? Scrubbing the dishes and cleaning the inside of the truck with my dad. At the age of 12, 13, maybe 14, that's until we hit high school. We're like, okay, it's just like maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. But yeah, that was it was the part where he's the one that brought me to work. I always saw him grind every single day at everything he did. He's had a lot of businesses throughout his time. He owns his own business now. And so my entire mindset from the moment growing up was I don't really need to work a job. I don't. I can always find a way to make money. That was always my intention. It wasn't, I never had a mentality where I need to work a 9 to 5 because society says I need to work a 9 to 5, right?
So let me piggyback off that real quick. Do you think that if you didn't have your dad, if your dad worked a 9 to 5 job, do you think you would still be in that rat race? Or do you think that was something that's ingrained to you as a child, that you see your dad kind of, as that entrepreneurial mindset, not working for anybody? Do you think you would have had a different trajectory kind of moving through your life now?
Yeah, maybe. It's hard to tell, right? You can't really ever speculate on things that could have happened. You take a different path in life, so you can't really go back and say, hey, what if that happened? But maybe. I mean, maybe if I not seen my dad doing his own thing on any time that he wanted to, I probably would have thought that, hey, I got to get up and I got to go to work and I got to work for someone else, right? But I never had that mentality. My entire life growing up was figure out a way to make money. Go out and hustle and find a way to make money, right? From doing the catering truck thing. I did, obviously, through high school. It was the standard, so to speak, for kids to start working at the age of 16, 17. So I was 17 when I asked my dad, hey, I want to get a cell phone. Oh, you want a cell phone? Go out and get a job. And so I did. I went out and got a job because when you're focused in school as a high school kid or whatever it is that you're focused on, right? Playing sports or whatever it is, you're not worried about ways to make money. You're worried about how can I actually make money? And the easy answer is a job. But after I got out of high school and I grew up, I was never about working a 9 to 5. I've worked 9 to 5s because of the necessity of work. obviously, like a lot of people out there, but I've always sat down and said, hey, if I find something that I enjoy, how can I make money off of this? Or if I find something that I know can be lucrative, how can I make money off of this? I mean, I was making um, masks. Let's just say masks. I don't want to say who it was, but I was making masks for a very famous DJ at the age of like 19, I think, 20, something like that, 22, I don't remember. Um, and I sold hundreds and hundreds of them, right? On the side. And it started with the Halloween costume. And that became one of like my very like own businesses at that age. I started a collections agency after I learned the business. Even when I worked in collections, it was technically not a 9 to 5. It was a 1099. So I got to pick and choose my own schedule. I would go into work when I
Wait,
wanted
hang
to
on.
work.
So you were calling people saying like, "Hey, sir, can you please pay this payment?"
I was.
You know what? And that's where I remember your voice from, dude.
Come
You actually
on.
called me back in 2003. I'm just kidding.
Come on, bro. Did you have credit card debt? Is that what you're telling me right now?
Yeah, I did. That'll
No.
be another discussion for another day.
Hey, I have credit card debt, right? We all do. But no, yeah, and that job is it's actually very grueling. It gets very tiring, right? It becomes a very
I bet.
tiring thing. So um I left the job. I left the business. Left it to a friend of mine and my brother. They kept it. And it was at that point where I was like, okay, I actually had to get a job. And so I went and I started working at the casino. And to go into my story a little bit, I was working at this casino for 2 years or so. And that's when I said, okay, I need to now really find a way to make more money because I wasn't making enough. And I was not happy working graveyards. So it forced me to find a different way to do it. And I was like, I got to get into real estate. Real estate's like the gold mine, right? And this was what, 2017, early 2017. I didn't know much about real estate investing, like most people do now, like the burst strategy and all of that stuff. It was you buy a house, you live in it, or you buy a house and you rent it to someone else and make money. But at those times, you're not going to make any money in Southern California with the house. You'll be negative cash flow. So that's when I found out about short-term rentals, and I said, hey, this could be a really good way to make money. And I've my entire life, man. I can't. I'm not a person to go and work under someone. Maybe I don't like authority. I don't know. I like my time. I'd rather move out of my house and live in my parents' house if I could than have to deal with someone else's BS, to be honest.
Well, you said something there that's really struck me. You said you had to grow up. I was actually thinking to myself, when is Rafa going to grow up? But I guess you said you did. So
So I got to ask you a question though. At what
yeah,
at what
go
age
ahead.
did you become a squatty potty salesman?
Oh shit, I would sell the crap out of squatty potties, no pun intended. If you
Oh
guys listening
man.
right now,
Uh,
look me in the eyes right now. Get a squatty potty. I promise it'll change your life.
this guy's
We'll leave it at
if
that.
Squatty Potty ever listens to this, you need to hire this gentleman as a salesperson. All right, I'm just saying.
Please
This
do
guy
so.
tells everybody to get a Squatty Potty.
I have squatty potties in all my listings, short-term
No,
rentals
you
and
don't.
midterm stays. Yes,
I
I
gotta
do.
see your listing.
That's
I
how
don't
big of an
believe you.
advocate I am for squatty potties.
Wow.
Squatty Potty's gonna sponsor our next podcast, man. So I'm gonna shoot an email to them. They're gonna see this.
Wow. That's funny.
But yeah, man, and you know that goes back to the what we're talking about earlier. So there's a monumental mind shift that happens when you leave your W-2 job. There's something in rough. I've talked to you about this offline before. Something changes when that W-2 check doesn't hit on the 1st and the 15th anymore. Like something just like clicks in you and you're just like, crap, I need to figure something out. Like I have to figure out what I'm doing. I have to figure out how I'm going to get there. I got to figure out what avenues I'm going to take to bring income in. I have to figure something out. So I think that's one of the most important things. There's a shift that happens in your mind when that W-2 doesn't hit, that you're used to that check every time. Something happens, and that can fuel you or it can scare the shit out of you where you have to figure something out. But for me, and honestly, having this conversation with you right now, I feel that every American in the United States should be making like 7 to 10K a month. Honestly, because there's so much money right now available. If you start to really think about it, and this is the most important part of this conversation where I'm going at right now with this is,
Wait a second.
first
Is
off,
this is this a mindset piece? I love mindset
yeah,
piece.
it is. What I'm trying to say is that if you surround yourself with people that have a very similar mindset as far as earning income, wealth, health, we're talking about all these things, you'll start to have a shift that happens mentally. And even with your food, like food is one of the most important things that we consume, right? We know that. A lot of people ignore it, but it is. and also content that you listen to, whether that's podcasts, whether that's TV. All those things relate back to what you're doing in your life. We've all heard of the 5 people that you hang out the most, right? That will influence you to do certain
Circle.
things.
Yeah.
And I can tell you now more than ever, I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I tell her, like, whoever you hang out with is who you become. And that's true in a sense. But I want to shift what I was talking about. I feel that there's an abundance amount of money right now circulating in the US. We know that there's 40% of the US money since, when was the US founded? 17 something or whatever. I'm not good
Not
at
a history
history.
guy.
But 40% of the income of the printed money in the last, and then in the last year and a half, 40% of the entire world's money has literally been printed. What does that tell us? There's a huge opportunity to make something from something. Literally, whether that's a podcast, creating a YouTube store, or excuse me, an Etsy store. There's a lot, and we're seeing this now, Rafa, with people leaving their jobs. Like, look at the U.S. report for people that are leaving jobs. People are leaving the workforce, creating their own businesses. There's no reason why people shouldn't do that. And again, it all goes back to starting hanging out, listening, consuming, starting to have that shift in your mindset where you see the abundance in things. And I think that a lot of times even family members will neglect those portions or those dreams or those visions that you have. But you have to surround yourself with people that will uplift you, that will give you positivity, that will tell you that there's not objectives in that, and to see your vision in a way. Because at the end of the day, we're just people, right? We're trying to figure things out. But that's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I think that literally anybody can earn income if they put their mind to doing something and they surround themselves with people that are doing things that they wish they were doing. And you don't necessarily have to be around them. You can listen to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I 100% agree with you. I'm one of those that, the old saying, never be the smartest person in the room, right? Well, I never want to be the smartest person anywhere I go. I want to learn something new every single time I talk to a different person. I want to be uncomfortable every single time I talk to a different person. I want to be able to say, what do you mean? Or what are you talking about? Or, I want to look like a fool, because if I ask a dumb question, I might get a smart answer. I might learn something new. And that's the entire part of it. I'm now very selective with my group of friends, and I'm always aiming to find those people who are smarter than me that I can hang out with, right? Or that I can share my wealth of knowledge with, where they can share theirs to me and help me grow, right? So, I mean, we can go on forever on this. This is our first episode, dude. So I wanted to keep it short so that the listeners kind of understand who we were,
Yeah.
what this was about. I mean, we talked about our whys, what the podcast really is about. I hope the listeners really do enjoy this and get value out of it, because we got some good stuff coming up. We're going to do segments maybe once a month about just short-term rentals, right? Operations, getting approvals, how to start one, like the works, anything you guys can think of short-term rentals. As a matter of fact, we're going to have an email set up just so that you guys out there listening can email in your questions or topics you guys want us to talk about in regards to short-term rentals, right? We have the biggest question we get is, how do you get started? And there'll be a segment in that. Another segment we'll be doing is maybe interviews with other guests in regards to the 4 topics: short-term rentals, mindset, life, and entrepreneurship. And obviously we're going to go into things about life, things we enjoy, things we like, who we are. As time goes by, you guys will get to find out what I'm really into, right? For those of you watching, you see this little creepy eye back here. It's one of my favorite artists. You guys are going to come to find that I love art. I'm a big fanatic of art. I'm an artist myself. And I like to joke, and sometimes I have really soft humor. Sometimes I have really dark humor. Luckily, Jesse gets along with me, so we can shoot this back and forth, right, Jesse? But yeah, man, finish it off for me. Close it off. Let the viewers know one last thing about yourself, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, you know what, man? I'm glad that we're having this conversation now, that it's obviously being documented. We have it here. But also, everybody listening right now, this is a place where all of our like-minded peers come to hang out, our neighbors, our short-term rental operators, entrepreneurs that are looking to get into, short-term rentals, or just entrepreneurs in general that want to hear certain perspectives. We know that with entrepreneurs, we don't have to be in the same business, but we're all doing the same thing for ourselves at the end of the day. And I think that's where, our podcast is meeting the entrepreneurial world with short-term rentals, and we're able to like really smash them together. You know what I mean? So I'm excited about that.
And
Last
before
thing about
you
myself,
hold on,
yeah.
before you go into one last thing, let's make it clear for everybody who's listening too, though, Jesse, because this isn't just a short-term rental podcast. We're definitely not doing another short-term rental podcast. There's a lot of Airbnb podcasts. There's a lot of like share economy podcasts, short-term rental like there's a lot of those. This is the type of podcast where if one of you listeners out there wants to come up and share your story because you somehow found what your big break turned you into an entrepreneur and it changed your mindset to give you a better life, all those 4 things, reach out because we would love to hear from you. We would love to speak to you because, again, we decided to do this around short-term rentals because it was what made our life easier. It's what brought us into this specific stage of our life. It's certainly not what's going to keep us there. Right? It's how me and Jesse met. It's how we got together with this whole idea. But it's certainly not about that. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about life, and it's about the mindset. The way you had to change the way you think to be able to get to that specific point in life. And I think that anybody listening to this where they go, how did I get to this point in life? At some point, if you go back and think about it, there had to be some kind of shift in your mind for you to decide, hey, I want to go in a different direction to become the person who I am today, to become a better person tomorrow in the future. Anyway, Jesse, I wanted to throw that in there, man. I know I don't want to keep cutting you off, but go ahead. What were you saying about yourself, please?
No, you're absolutely right. No, that one big break, that's that one thing, you know, and it all changes from there. So, yeah, last thing about myself, I don't know, man. I'm just a regular dude trying to live life. That's it. I like the beach and long walks on the sunset. Wait, can you walk on a sunset?
Come on,
Is that even a
brother.
thing?
You can walk during the sunset. You can walk during the sunset. You like beaches. You like beaches. You like walks on the beach during the sunset. That makes more sense.
Oh man, that's good, dude. That's good. I like that right there.
With the
But
surfboard on your side
yeah,
that you're
I
never
think
going to
that's
use,
gonna.
though. You're walking around with the surfboard
I'm
on your
never
side.
gonna use that. I think that's gonna close out the segment. We appreciate everybody for being here. This is
Bro, this
episode
isn't
one
Clubhouse,
of the
bro.
Big Break. No, what are we talking about? We're on a segment.
We love you all for being here. That's how we always close out the rooms in Clubhouse.
I know, shit, my bad.
Yeah, it's all good. I
But
just
yeah,
give you a
man,
hard
I
time.
appreciate everybody for being here and listening and join the room, share, subscribe, whatever that is that comes along with this. Please hang out with us. We want you to be here. We will provide some more information. We're just what Rafa said. We're going to have people that come in that talk about health, mental health, which is huge, which I'm a big advocate of. I want to make sure that we have somebody that comes in on that end. We have people that talk about the stock market and crypto. We want to talk about anything and everything that has to do with short-term rentals, life, entrepreneurship, investing, investments, real estate, all that good stuff. But yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We should probably have an outro.
Yeah, so I guess let's just finish it off with how do people get a hold of you, right?
Yeah, people get a hold of me. You can find me at Airventure Hosting Company or Airventure Host Co. on Instagram. That's usually where I'm at, and the same handle for Facebook, Airventure Host Co. What about you, man?
Easiest way to get a hold of me is on Instagram, Rafa_Loza, L0ZA, so RAFA_L0ZA. And you can get a hold of both of us on our Facebook group, Airbnb The Big Break. That one is strictly about short-term rentals. But join it if you guys want to learn something new, right? Maybe you guys want to just make some side cash. Short-term rentals are a great way to do it. Or if you just want to share some posts about your story, maybe we'll have a Big Break Show Facebook page also, Jesse, just to talk about these specific topics. But with that, guys, other than that, I mean, we'll be here twice a week. Maybe we'll see how this goes. It's our first episode 1. We're really excited that we did this for you guys. And again, hopefully you guys find value. Yes, we got to record that. I love that.
Cool, man.
All right, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Take care. Stay safe, everybody.